Hello, Miss Bureau. So first of all, I just want to hope you and your family still doing well, doing fine, stay safe, stay clean, stay at home, be healthy. So without further ado, I will go straight to the presentation. So my book is called Unbroken, a World War II story of survival, resilience, and redemption by Laura Hillebrand. So the first one is about the summary of Unbroken. The subject matter is about the World War II story, resilience, and redemption. The purpose of the book is to show the atrocities of war, the determination and resilience, and it also relays a powerful message of forgiveness and hope. So besides those, I also noticed found out many other themes like about friendship. So specifically, Louis' friends are a part of his life. They are experienced together in a barracks, on the battlefield, in bars, and in pornographic palaces. Russell Allen Phillips, Bill Harris, and Frank Nicker are great examples of providing life-sustaining needs for Louis in his unimaginable, horrific condition in Japanese camps. The second one is about faith. So thanks to his family and his friends' faith, Louis becomes the world's most famous Olympic runner. And thanks to his faith in himself, in his ability, he survived after 2 years in Japanese camps. And thanks to his faith in God, he becomes a motivational Christ speaker and a friend to Japanese captors. And the third one is about language communication. So language barrier leads to misunderstanding and further tension between American soldiers and Japanese guards. On the other hand, language barrier is a method of rebellion. And the final one is about family. So as Louis spoke of what federal boy he had once been and all that Pete has done to rescue him, to following in his brother's step as a runner, which also saved Louis from war. Additionally, Louis' family remained unwavering before his rumored death, believing that he was alive, and he was. The intended audience is the entire world, but mainly the wounded and the lost. For example, like soldiers, ex-soldiers, and soldiers' family. The thesis is to flesh out the power of perseverance and forgiveness. About the author, so the author's real name is Laura Hillebrand. She was born on May 15, 1967, and she's an American author of books and magazine articles. So in 1987, she was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which mostly confined her indoors for the last quarter century and also prevented her from completing her degree. She also has an award-winning essay, A Sudden Illness, along with her two best-selling non-fiction books. And in terms of her writing style, her writing style is non-fiction, and the purpose of reading the book is that to show human limitless capacity, the atrocity of war, and love and forgiveness. About the lessons, so there are 6 lessons. First of all, there is no happiness without suffering. So in order to become the world's famous Olympic runner, he has to train so hard that he rips the skin right off one of his toes, leaving his socks bloody. And as Pete Zammarini says to him, a lifetime of glory is worth a moment of pain. I think that quote illustrates my point very well because of that. The more capacity of human spirit you have, the higher chance of success you will get. And about the selfishness is seen among soldiers in the Green Hornet crash, in Japanese camps, on the Superman plane, or among families. The book reminds the reader of kindness, which is an important key to happiness and fulfillment. About human limitless capacity. So throughout the book, Lewis is frequently put into incredibly difficult and dangerous situations. Still, his optimism and resilience are what keeps him alive on the raft for 47 days and 2 years in Japanese camp. Readers can use Zamorini's attitude as a guide for how to become more confident, more resilient, more patient in challenging situations. And the fourth one is about sport. So sport is probably the precedent that teaches Lewis to have endurance, resilience, and I think that it is the really good chance for young readers to recognize sports benefit that can be applied in challenging situations. The fifth one is forgiveness. So in the end, Lewis' rage bring him to much humiliation and anger that sent him into a negative spiral. But he decides to forgive. In the end, he decides to forgive himself and forgive his Japanese captors. Not only does his return to Japan elucidate the banishment of humiliation and powerlessness, he also wishes to address conflicts with the Japanese criminals. His action shows that forgiveness is the most healing way for ourselves and for the offenders to move forward without sticking to the past. And the final one is the value of dignity. As Hildebrand once mentioned in the book, there's a quote for that. Dignity is as essential to human life as water, food, and oxygen. The stubborn retention of it, even in the face of extreme physical hardship, can hold a man's soul in his body long past the point at which the body should have surrendered it. So I think self-respect is what keeps soldiers' mentalities alive even when their bodies are weak. And Lewis' story renders out the importance of dignity that will create physical strength for soldiers to fight for respect and honor that they deserve as true human beings. So there's a dramatic reading. The passage is pretty long, but it's basically about the bird, the Japanese leader, that makes every prisoner to punch Lewis in the face as a punishment for another man's death. For a fish. Of a fish, he received 220 punches. Still he alive. He survived. So the main focus of the passage is to condemn the sadistic and erratic torment of the bird, and it was probably the most brutal torture that Lewis ever had. And the punishment reinforces the idea that violence is reciprocal, that it may be more damaging for the people who inflict the pain rather than the ones who take it. Happy to hurt their friends, each man performs a betrayal, and betraying one's brothers in arms is an action that quickly exhausts one's self-respect, and the officer bruises will heal, but betrayal will leave psychological scars that only some kind of redemption can erase. So, overall, in terms of knowledge, the book introduces me to the Paul's experience in the Japanese camps that may be overlooked in history books. The book is really suitable for all ages because the main focus is about human capacity, about atrocities of war, and love and forgiveness that heal the soldiers' souls. And I think that the reader can learn many valuable lessons from the book, such as resilience, patience, and having a really optimistic mentality. And I absolutely love the ending, where Louis decides to forgive himself and forgives all the captors. I think that's a big lessons that everyone has to take, because it's for our own growth and for our happiness. When we hold on to hurt, pain, and resentment, it harms us far more than it harms the offender. And I think forgiveness frees us to live in the present and allows us to move on without anger or contempt of seeking revenge. In terms of delivery, I am not 100% satisfied. I feel like the book has a lot of information, but it has some irrelevant and repetitive facts that get the book dragged on. And I think the number one rule of the novel is to show, not tell. And the book, unfortunately, lists out many historical events without really fully analyzing the highlights. I feel like Laura Hillebrand makes many attempts to get her points across by adding a lot of details to demonstrate the atrocities of war, and she succeeds to do so. But at the same time, personally, the characters become flat and one-dimensional, and I really wish to have more emotional engagement with the characters. Yay, the end. The last one is about I made a college. So the first one is about family, the first union between Louis and his family after 2 years imprisoned. This also symbolizes love that keeps him alive. The second and the third one is about his friends, symbolizing his friendship. And the third one is about his resilience. The fourth one is the picture of the author and Louis Zamperini. And I felt like the book Unbroken really shows the resilience as much as how the author has been resilient in fighting against her illness. The third one is symbolized the evil and brutality, since the picture is actually about the bird, the Japanese leader. And the last one is when Louis Zamperini returns to Japan and meets all the Japanese captors, which talks about the redemption and forgiveness. And that's the end. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And again, I hope you and your family stay safe, stay clean, be healthy. Thank you, Miss Brewer.